Welcome to Second Listen Saturday on the Parenting Roundabout podcast, where we share some fun moments from a past episode for your weekend listening pleasure. Look for new episodes every Monday through Friday.
Coping with rejection.
Yeah. It's hard enough coping with rejection ourselves, but then when it's your kids being rejected, it's like 100 times worse. Mm-hmm. And I've just, every now and then, I get a little steam in my engine and decide that my kids need jobs. They've had trouble getting full-time. They haven't been able to get full-time jobs. They've both got some sort of part-time job, but it's hugely insufficient. And given that they both have, I think, fairly minor disabilities and huge potential, it apparently does not look like that to the outside world, because the jobs they've been able to get are very short-term and not enough hours. And they just can't seem to get the jobs I think they deserve. Right. So, you know, we go through these cycles where mom gets a bee in her bonnet and says, you all have to apply for jobs, apply for jobs, apply for jobs. And then they go through a bunch of rounds of interviews, which are heartbreaking. And then I just leave it lie for a while. So we seem to be in another cycle now where they're going for job interviews. And my daughter was really, really excited about this one job. And she researched the place and she found out some interview questions and she studied and she practiced. She was so sure she was going to get this job. She went for an interview one night. The next day she got an email saying no, which is nice because usually they just don't tell you at all. You just never hear anything. Right. And eventually you figure out, well, I guess they didn't like me. So it's like, come on. Yeah. Why does this have to be so hard? And it's, you know, when they were young and in school and this sort of rejection came around, they didn't know about it. It was happening in IEP meetings. It was happening in teacher conferences. It was people telling me they're never going to amount to anything. And I would put on my armor and I would fight that like crazy, but I can't do it now. Now they've got to do it themselves. And it's so disheartening and I don't know what to tell them. And, you know, there's other parts of life in which they're experiencing rejection too, but this is just the most obviously we don't see any value in you sort of thing. And I don't know. I mean, I say all my little platitudes. Oh, it wasn't meant to be. There's something better out there. You wouldn't have liked working with those people anyway. But it's not enough. I don't even really quite buy it. You know? Right. My daughter feels really bad about it. My son doesn't say anything, but I think that it causes him to just not want to try at all. So do you guys have these experiences of rejection with your kids? What do you do? Is there a good way to handle it? Or do you is just the dark room the best solution? I'm stressing, man. I because it's like I feel like I have to push them to do these things, even though there's a pretty good chance it's going to end up with somebody saying, yeah, not you.
Yeah. I mean, recently my son has been upset about, it was mostly about the middle school musical. So last year he tried out, he did get a part, and then he ended up deciding that he couldn't do it because it was just conflicting with so many other things, and he had to stop. And so this year, we knew in advance that the musical was happening the same weekend as his state tournament for hockey. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so there was just really no way that he could do both. Right. It was just a direct conflict. Yeah. And so he didn't try out. And he had people telling him that he was a quitter because they knew that he didn't do it last year, or that he did and he stopped. He did drop out last year. Yeah. And then one of his friends, who had the backstory that my son is, he's done like some theater camps and things, and he is in a choir, like he likes to sing. Right. And then this friend of his who isn't really, it was just like a fluky thing that he's like, oh, sure, I'll try out. And then he got the lead, like the male lead. So he just, last weekend when the show came out, he just was so like discouraged about the whole thing. And I didn't really, he's like, I just want to be the best at something, and I'm always just okay or not that good. And I just want to be really good at something, and there's nothing. And I was just like,
was your heart breaking?
Yes, because, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
And I even said to him, we have this podcast that we work really hard on, and we really like doing, and we wish we could have more people listening to it. And I said, because everyone says if you do good work, then people will come to you and find you. And I said, that doesn't necessarily happen, and it's really discouraging. So I use the podcast.
We are here to be your model, parents.
Right. But it didn't really,
no,
it didn't,
they don't buy that
necessarily get him anywhere. But yeah, it's really hard. Like, what do you say? Most kids are not going to be the best at anything. They're really not, and that's a really hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
Right. It's been interesting because when we first moved here, my kids took a big hit in terms of just not fitting in. So I guess being rejected or being told that, they didn't know something or, and, for example, my son went to school on his first days at middle school here when we first moved here. I think it was his first day actually. And the kids all did the Pledge of Allegiance. Well, he didn't know it and had never done it before. And obviously, and he didn't put his hand over his heart, and he got sent to the principal's office.
Oh my goodness.
Because, they just assumed that he refused to do it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So that's just one small example. And then of course my daughter, in elementary school, she went through grade 1 and grade 2, and none of the teachers, and even, I knew something was going on, but I couldn't figure it out at the time, but nobody picked up on her ADHD. Mm-hmm. And they just kept telling her and telling us that she was a slow learner and that she might need to be held back. And so she kept hearing these messages. So we eventually got all that sorted out, and she excels now above and beyond what we ever expected. But she still holds that,
Oh yeah.
that in her heart. And then, fast forward to actually just this past week where she applied for a board position for an organization that she's been with for 5 years, going on 5 years, a volunteer organization. And she lost out to a freshman. She's going to be a senior. She lost the position to a freshman. And so she was really disappointed and upset. And I think what that does for me is, like, typically I would go into a room with a cloth over my head. But in these instances, I find that it really brings out we're going to find something that you excel at.
Yeah.
Kind of attitude, and let's find what you're good at, and let's put you in something where you can feel good about yourself. And I guess that just comes from, those first couple of years when we were here, and just having to, the kids having to prove themselves and, kind of really show what they were capable of. And it's just kind of, now it's stuck in my head, like, okay, well, you know what? Do you really need that board position? Is it going to get you anywhere? No. So let's go find something that, she's really great at computers and working with computers. So let's go find you something that you can do, and it will actually benefit you more because that's what you want to do in university. Yeah. So I think it makes me more determined. So normally I would just roll over and give up. But I think, in recent years, having moved here and having to force our way in and to fit in and to prove ourselves, it's made me take on that attitude of, let's find something that you're good at and can do. Yeah. And it doesn't come overnight, obviously, but that's kind of the attitude that I take now.
Yeah. And, I love that idea. I just worry about finding that thing. And also, of course, now that I'm parenting young adults, that thing that I can see being the thing they should do, being something that they feel they want to do. It's like, when you're in that position, it's like, I can think of 10 things you could do and you could be really successful at, but I understand that sitting in your room looking at your computer probably is more appealing because there's less risk and there's less embarrassment and there's no guarantees that anything is ever going to work out.
Right.
And the older kids get, I'm sure I was the same way when I was in my 20s, although I always had things that I feel like I certainly had some rejections, but I also had some triumphs. And that's not necessarily and I was also very driven. And that's not really the case with my kids. And I just feel like a few rejections and they're just going to say, that's it. I'm just staying home. Yeah. You can't stay home. You need to have a job. You got to keep trying. Not only just jobs, but socially. Friendships have been very difficult. There's been rejections in friendships and rejections by people they thought were their friends who weren't. And that's, why I just keep wishing Amazon Prime would get in the, we will send you a guaranteed friend, business. Cause that's hard too. There's just a lot, I think, especially for all kids, but for kids with disabilities, it's especially difficult because I think there's fewer opportunities. So if those don't work out, it's hard to know what to do. I'm just stumped.
Well, and also with your young adult looking for jobs, you've got to somehow convince the employer.
Yeah.
It's like with a kid, like with Kristen and with my son, like trying out for things and not getting them. That's hard too, because there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
You can coach them and you can help them be as prepared as you can.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Yeah.
So then you're stuck.
If other people would just cooperate, none of us would have these problems.
Right. Please, come on, guys.
More and more, I am thinking that other people, well, I can't use that word on a family podcast. Let's say stink. we were driving past the place my daughter went for an interview and then immediately did not get it. We happened to drive by it later that same day, and she and my son and I all yelled expletive and the name of this business as we drove by. So that's going to be a thing now.
And now you felt better after you did that, right?
Yes. So we may be doing that freely for a little while. I'm trying to teach her the good place expletives. So we may be saying fork this particular place.
Sometimes you just need to get mad and live with that.
It's just there eventually, I keep saying eventually there will be a good place, a place that will be accepting, and I hope that's true, but I don't know. I don't know.
I think so.
Need to open their heart a little bit.
I've just taken on that. I'm just so used to it now. Like, okay, well, we'll find you something else. Like
chasing that unicorn.
Yeah. But I don't know. I just feel like there's something out there. You just have to. Yeah.
See, this is what we should do is I feel like parents should periodically rotate. Like, I will find something for your kid to do if you find someplace for my kid to work. Let's each call. Let's set up an imaginary company.
Right.
Pretend that we're calling on behalf of this person.